どうする？こっそり全力フォローだ。ピカチュウ。
Hey everyone, it's Mark. This is my recap for Pokemon Journeys episode 69. Nice! I mean, episode 69. I want to watch their first Errand. This was the 1154th episode of the Pokemon anime, and wow, what was the point of this episode? Another filler special for us this week, which always forces me to be a little creative when it comes to these reviews. Honestly, if you weren't that interested in this episode, I can't blame you, and you'll probably have more fun if you just check out my other new video instead. I ranked all of Jesse and James's Pokemon from best to worst, and it was a really fun ranking to do, and in my personal opinion, this is my new best video ever when it comes to a combination of video quality, editing, etc. So if you haven't yet, please check that one out because I'll just laugh when this episode review of a completely pointless Pokemon Journeys episode ends up getting more views than that video. Alright, that's enough of that, let's get into the episode highlights. The episode starts at the Vermilion City Pokemon Center, where Ash, Go, and Chloe are running an errand for Professor Cerise. Why all three of them needed to go run an errand, I don't know. It looked like all they were doing was picking up some kind of medicine, but whatever. Grookey and Eevee start causing some trouble because that's just what they do, and Go and Chloe start arguing about their Pokemon's behavior. Ash was staying positive throughout all of this, but clearly he's just a little more mature as a trainer, whereas his friends are still a little inexperienced and defensive. Grookey and Eevee are back at it again, this time running across the street with their eyes closed. I don't remember these two being this reckless in the past, but clearly they're just egging each other on at this point. I also don't remember Vermilion City being just such a populated and high traffic area, but I guess the Pokemon world really has developed a lot over the years, huh? Since Go and Chloe are both getting defensive about their Pokemon, Ash comes up with the idea to let them finish running the errand themselves, to see if they can actually do it. Go and Chloe are nervous about letting their Pokemon go by themselves, but they're too stubborn and or competitive with one another, so they agree to Ash's idea. I guess I may as well take the time now to mention that this episode's plot actually pretty much directly rips off a Japanese TV show called, okay, let me try this one, Hajimete no Atsukai. I think I did alright with that pronunciation. It was actually Luop who I heard point this out first, so shout out to him, but this TV show is literally watching little kids run an errand by themselves. Wow, how exciting. I guess I could see how this is appealing. I guess maybe Japanese mothers are all over this kind of content. I mean, my mom just watches boring TV shows like Love It or List It, which I don't even understand how that kind of stuff has an audience. With all that said, I am a 23-year-old spending his Friday night reviewing an episode of a cartoon show made for kids, so let's just keep going with this dumb errand episode. Go and Chloe prepare Grookey and Eevee for their task, tying little pieces of cloth around them in order to carry the supplements they got from the Pokemon Center. After giving them directions, Ash fills them in on the plan to just follow them anyways and make sure they don't get hurt or lost or anything like that. Meanwhile, Team Rocket are actually doing something that piques my interest for once in Pokemon Journeys. They're going to have a little training session using two Pokemon they randomly pull out of the Rocket Prize Master. Now that's a fun idea I can get behind. Oh wait, never mind. They just get an Appleton and a Vanillite and make some Pokemon edible arrangements instead. They decide that instead of doing this training session, they're going to eat some apple pie and ice cream, and they send Pelipper out to pick up the ice cream. Unsurprisingly, their parental instincts kick in as well as one of their Pokemon goes out to run an errand. I think it's about time I speed up these highlights. I mean, calling any of this episode a highlight is a bit of a stretch anyway, but here we are. So Grookey and Eevee get sidetracked with this Geodude, and Ash steps in to help fix it and calls out Gengar, which was awesome to see this guy for the first time in a while. Team Rocket are also observing their Pokemon's errand. Of course, they're a little better at disguise than the Twerps are. Pelipper gets sidetracked as well, or I guess it just forgot what it was doing, so Meowth steps in to help. Meanwhile, Eevee saves Grookey from walking straight into traffic, and as we'll see in the rest of this episode, Eevee is actually much more well-behaved than Grookey is. I played part of this at the beginning of this video. Pelipper flies in and causes some dramatic music to kick in. There was a lot of different Journeys OST in this episode. I don't know why that stood out to me this week, but it just did for some reason. They got through a lot of the Journeys soundtrack this week. Ash calls out Sirfetch'd to protect them, which was another cool instance of seeing Ash's team. I mean, it's really for the most simple actions, but we are so starved of seeing Ash's Pokemon that anything feels special at this point. Team Rocket are also helping out their Pokemon. They are literally the ones giving Pelipper the ice cream that they sent it out to get in the first place, so kind of defeating the purpose of the errand. Somehow this ends up with Grookey hijacking a ride in Pelipper's mouth. I don't know how this simple errand could get screwed up this much. And in the midst of all this craziness, Go is stripping Ash down for some reason. They never fully explained why Go was stealing Ash's clothes all of a sudden. I'm assuming it was to try and go undercover to help Grookey, but it just looked like Go was stealing the clothes off Ash's back for literally no reason. Pelipper successfully completes its errand, but of course Morpeko eats their apple pie and vanilla ice cream combo. I guess along the way Pelipper just dumped Grookey off somewhere, it's totally alone and freaking out for some reason, but it eventually remembers the task Go gave it and gets back on track. I don't know if stuff like this is common on that Japanese show I mentioned earlier, but the way Grookey ended this episode just made no sense to me. Thankfully, we're almost finished with this nonsense. Eevee successfully completes her end of the errand and Chloe is really happy. Grookey isn't too far behind, but it looked like it struggled a lot more than Eevee did. It barely makes it to Go. I honestly have no idea why this part was so unnecessarily overdramatic, but the errand is finally finished, and so is this episode, as the narrator suggests that maybe Go and Chloe grew as much as Grookey and Eevee did in this episode, which is probably a fair assessment. I'm giving this episode a 5 out of 10 rating. Now, a rating completely in the middle like that would usually suggest that I was completely indifferent to this episode, but I actually thought there was a lot of fun parts to this episode. They just so happened to be perfectly balanced out with some bad parts as well. I think you all got the sense pretty quick that the whole running an errand plotline didn't really do much for me. Like, I couldn't tell if we were supposed to take that storyline seriously, or if this whole episode was just meant to be making fun of shows like that one that the episode was based off. Let's start off with what I thought were the good parts of this episode. Obviously, like I mentioned before, even if they are doing next to nothing, I always like to see Ash's Pokemon. It's just refreshing to see them not trapped inside the Cerise Park all day. Team Rocket were fun in this episode as well, although I would have preferred to see their original idea of trading with random Pokemon. I still thought they were a bright spot in this episode though. We'll talk about Morpeko more in a little bit, but episodes like this really help establish Pelipper as a part of their Journeys family, which is cool to see. It's not the same as their Alolan family, but hey, at least it's something. How about Go and Chloe? They were weird in this episode. I don't know the best way to describe it. If any of you out there like to ship these two, I'm sure the tension between them in this episode was fantastic for you. I personally didn't really care either way, but like the narrator said at the end, I do think this episode probably helped both of them as trainers. They went from babying their Pokemon at the start of the episode and being overprotective of them to at least trusting them enough to run a basic errand. I don't know if this actually counts as character development, but I guess we'll see if this plays out in any future episodes at all. And as for the parts I did not especially enjoy this week, the whole gimmick of everyone secretly watching the Pokemon was kind of dumb. I almost would have preferred if we just got like 15 minutes uninterrupted of the Pokemon running to errands themselves, instead of constantly cutting to Go, Chloe, or Team Rocket freaking out about whatever mundane task was happening. And like I mentioned in the episode highlights, what was up with Grookey towards the end of the episode? It looked like it was about to pass out after walking home? What? But everyone was so dead set on letting Grookey walk those last 10 steps by itself. I don't know about you, but I was just shaking my head and laughing during that part. I still have no clue what was going on. So overall, not a bad episode, just one that definitely didn't need to happen. I'll file this one under somewhat boring filler and just move on with my life. Oh yeah, no real bingo update this week. Nothing happened in this episode to check off a new tile, although maybe next week will let us check off the Team Rocket actually catches a new Pokemon space, as the next episode is going to be all about Morpeko. It's been slowly building over time that Team Rocket aren't especially fond of Morpeko, and really it's been ruining their lives more than anything else, and finally they're going to try and do something to get rid of it. The title of the episode is Please Catch Morpeko, so that begs the question, will anyone actually capture Morpeko next week? I think the two main candidates here are Go or James, because well, Go catches pretty much everything, and James doesn't have a Pokemon yet in Pokemon Journeys, so he could use one. My prediction is that no one is going to catch Morpeko, but I am curious to hear what you all think about that. Of course, if Team Rocket do catch Morpeko, then it would join the 27 other Pokemon that Jesse and James have owned, which I ranked in that video I mentioned earlier. Again, if you haven't watched my ranking video about Team Rocket's Pokemon yet, please do me a favor and watch it. I think it's a really good video, so I know you'll enjoy it. But for now, that's all I've got for this video. Thanks so much for watching, and let me know what your guys' thoughts are down in the comments, or head over to my Twitter or Discord if you want to interact with me on there. Be sure to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys next time. Your Saga and Kanto, in what is still to this day a very emotional episode where James had to leave behind a Pokemon that he cared for so much in order to let it rest and heal. I mean, the real reason it left the show was because they wanted to use Mime Jr. to hype the upcoming 4th generation, so they just swapped James's Psychic-type Pokemon. But don't let that stop you from remembering all the good times James and Chimecho shared.